Hello there, my name is David Pustansky and welcome to this Extremed TV production where we will be looking into the latest demo from Resident Evil 8 Village. Now, last couple of weeks there was demos available, but they were only available to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 customers. Now things have been opened up great big and wide. I don't know what I'm saying with that. So with this week we've been able to look at the game running on Xbox, on Steam, PC machines, and of course on Stadia. So we'll be checking out multiples of these. I'll probably cut a lot of this. Available for PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Xbox One, Steam and Stadia. I've played through the demo on Xbox, PS4 and Stadia for the purposes of this test. To quickly cover the differences noticed between the versions, I felt that the Xbox gave the best experience, whereas the PlayStation felt slightly slower. That's PS4 of course, and then on Stadia it was very good but a tiny bit laggy perhaps. But I probably wouldn't have noticed any lag if I hadn't just played it on the other machines. The downside of Stadia is I found that I couldn't screen record from that version of the game with the Elgato Game Capture HD, as I don't have an HDMI splitter that could bypass the HDCP. This was a bummer, but such is Stadia. The castle demo felt like exploring an empty castle with only a couple of moments of action midway and towards the end of its approximately 6 minutes runtime, whereas the village demo felt like it had a lot more to offer, at least at first. You begin the demo speaking with a creepy old woman who Snow White would be best avoiding.
It's you, the child's father.
Child? Hey, wait, do you mean Rose? Is she here?
Rose! Rose, yes. She is in great danger. Since Mother Miranda brought her to the village, we have fallen into darkness.
What are you talking about? The monsters?
However, after this little interaction, you do get a little bit more of a sense of an objective and something that you're trying to do and the world around you, compared to the castle demo where you just wake up in a room and then there's no one else that you see for quite some time.
Why don't you take a look?
From here you explore a few areas across the village with buildings to explore and signs that you will need to find keys and crests to progress. It is Resident Evil after all. After this you find an area of long grass, and it's here you are confronted by the game's much hyped werewolves. Seeing werewolves and witches in a Resident Evil game almost feels wrong, but I'm sure there will be some in-universe explanation that these were created by a virus or a laboratory experiment, because otherwise it would just be that there are monsters regardless of Umbrella and everything going on. And at this stage that would be odd. The werewolves look great, and as this game's equivalent to a standard villager from Resident Evil 4 or a zombie from the earlier games, these really do seem quite dangerous. They are much faster than either a zombie or a villager, and are visibly more intimidating with larger, more powerful frames. They are faster than the Crimson Head zombies from Resident Evil Remake, and also wield weapons just as the villagers from Resident Evil 4 did. All this said, it does feel a little bit of a shame that by the time this whole game is over, you'll have probably mowed down hundreds of these things, as a single werewolf, in my opinion, should seem like a big enough threat on its own. After this run-in with the werewolves, you meet a young woman and her father who is injured, and you help them safely reach their neighbours, where a small cluster of survivors are hiding out. This was interesting, as it's not common in a Resident Evil game to meet that many survivors like this, although any thoughts you have that this may end up as a group effort to survive are short-lived, as fairly predictably the injured father turns into a werewolf himself, and he takes out everyone except his daughter.
Father!
Elena, no, stay back!
No, let me go!
Who blasts him with a shotgun and then throws it away. So just as it looks like you and the werewolf's daughter are about to team up, things very quickly change there as well, as her father shows back up, still not quite transformed, says her name, she thinks he's human, he walks a little bit towards her, she walks a little bit towards him, he falls down into some flaming wreckage, she then falls down into flaming wreckage, and I guess that's probably the last that you'll ever see of either of them. The fact that the father was able to turn up again and say her name shows the potential that these werewolves have the potential to be cured and turned back to human. Of course, he was never fully transformed into a werewolf in the first place, so maybe once the process is taken, there is no way back. However, it is a little bit scary to think that you might be shooting these werewolves, where after the full moon is gone, they could just be normal people and potentially saved. Unfortunately, with the werewolf's daughter dead, any hopes Ethan had of having a post-Mia fling are quickly gone up in flames. You grab a couple of crests in true Resident Evil form, and after another meeting with the evil queen from Snow White, you exit the main village area to head towards the castle, and that is where this demo ends. This is essentially what happens in the demo, unlike last week where I had only 30 minutes with the PS4 version of the castle demo. I had an hour to split my time across both the castle and village stages this week. And I got an hour on each of the platforms I tested the game on. I didn't use all of the available hours across PS4, Xboxes and Stadia and Steam because I felt like after a couple of hours I had seen everything I needed to for this preview. Having a bit longer with the demos also gave me the opportunity to test myself at speed running them. Now, last week I mentioned that the castle demo only took me about 6 minutes to complete, and after giving the village demo a couple of run-throughs, I decided to speed run this, and I found that I could beat it in just over 3 minutes. I then went back to the castle demo and found that I could complete that in equally 3 minutes. Now, these aren't going to be World Guinness record times, but I still feel pretty damn pleased with myself just for speed running these through. So if you want to see my speed runs of these, do check them out because I will put them in a separate video. Now, being able to complete each of the demos in about 3 minutes is probably not how Capcom would want you to experience Resident Evil Village, but this is somewhat Capcom's fault, as putting a 30-minute time limit on a demo would mean that players would probably want to rush through to see the ending of the demo, and probably rush through a lot of what the demos had to offer. I'm super excited about this game, which will be available on all systems on the 7th of May, but as a long-term fan of the series, there is one thing I noticed, which is a pattern you get in Resident Evil games historically, which once again I have noticed here, and that is that Capcom cannot help themselves but leave the horror behind and focus more on action. Whereas the original Resident Evil was a horror game, Resident Evils 2, 3, Code Veronica made things a lot more action based. Then they sort of went back to horror with Resident Evil Remake and Zero, but then they went all out action with Resident Evil 4, which went even more action with 5 and 6. Resident Evil 7 brought things back to horror, and once again this is inspired a little bit more by Resident Evil 4, with the merchant being there, with shooting the werewolves, dropping money that you could then pick up coins, so it will encourage you to have more action-based gameplay rather than avoiding combat. So there you go, I have explored everything that the Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil Castle demos of Resident Evil 8 Village have to offer. I'm super excited about the games, and I will be doing full reviews of the full game when it drops in a few days' time. So for now, my name is David Pustansky. Do make sure you smash that subscribe button over here on youtube.com/Extreme Improv, and check out the article that accompanies this review of the demo, this preview of the full game, over on extremed.tv. And until next time, stay safe, always stay extremed, and watch out for werewolves. Boom.